Welcome to a life-changing edition of Boxing During Dinner. This is episode 26, and there's some breaking news. Something that you guys need to know about this show, about your host. So for the breaking news, I'm going to toss to myself. Armando, what do you got? Thanks, Armando. And the breaking news is that I'm getting married today. Oh! And look, we have a photographer over there. We have a videographer right behind you.
Boxing During Dinner now has 3 cameras going on and a lot of excitement in here for you, big buddy.
Exactly. And what are we eating today, David?
Well, we have some Pizza Hut pizza over here if someone wants to.
Tons of boxes, so if you guys want to eat it, it's on us. Even though this guy paid for it. My best friend Joel.
I did, and I'm just waiting to get sober with the pizza.
That makes him today's food spot.
So yeah, man, I'm getting married. This is a great episode of Boxing During Dinner.
We got to bring it over here because we only have one mic. Yeah, this is a big day, and I wanted to treat you to a nice special drink. So we're gonna open up some Chivas 18. 18. Okay.
I'm sharing this with all of you.
A little bit of premium treatment.
With all of you.
The only surprise though is that I've already drank from it.
You're a bastard, David.
Yeah, but it's still a nice gift, isn't it? So here we go. I'm gonna serve some a little bit, and we get started talking about boxing.
Oh, and big thanks to the Epic Hotel where we're staying at. They didn't give us free nights or anything, but you know what? We're staying here. It's a nice hotel. And no, we're not staying at a motel. Alex's apartment is not a motel, as someone suggested on YouTube.
Yeah, no, we would do some shady things there if that was where we were staying.
I don't know if people like that impression too much. People here do. Yeah, well, not in the Philippines.
This is today's audience, so that to me is all that matters.
So, I mean, this is Boxing During Dinner, and even though it's my wedding, we still need to talk boxing.
Yeah.
Bernard Hopkins and Chad Dawson next week. Hopkins is 47 years old, but he's looked great as of late. And Chad Dawson is a fast fighter, but you know what? I'm not really convinced with Chad Dawson. I think Hopkins takes it.
I'm going to put my money on Dawson. Thankfully, I don't have too much money, though. But I have to say that Chad Dawson's got, and Bernard Hopkins said this in the build-up to the fight, is that if Chad Dawson had my mentality as a fighter, he'd be the most feared fighter in the entire world. And I have to agree. If it's going on skill set, Chad Dawson is as talented as anybody in all of boxing. But the problem is he seems to lack that killer instinct. It seemed, you saw that in his fight against Jean Pascal, where he just seemed to let up. He just didn't put his foot on the gas when it was necessary to. But I wonder if maybe he's learned his lesson. I think Dawson's gonna take advantage of the fact that Hopkins is gonna try to get into his head, and he's probably gonna fight back. But again, this is me going based on assumptions of things that may or may not happen. But you're 46 years old. You're fighting potentially, arguably, one of the more gifted athletes in the sport. I just don't think this is his time. There's a reason that Bernard Hopkins avoided Chad Dawson when he was the king at 175, and I think Dawson takes this one.
I mean, I think Hopkins will take it by decision. Hopkins is a good fighter. I think he's the most naturally gifted fighter in the history of boxing, because the guy, like he said, he's in his late 40s already. If you consider 45 a happy median there,
so he was 45,
which it is.
47, he's a little bit of everything. Right?
Exactly. So at 47, he's in the best shape of his life, as he usually is. The guy does not gain weight between fights. You're not going to see him gain, 20 pounds from weigh-in to fight night. The guy maybe gains 4 or 5 pounds. The guy's a great fighter, always in great shape. And you know what? Everybody's been doubting Hopkins for years already. Is he too old? Is he going to become old tonight? I don't think next week is the night to become old. I mean, Jean Pascal, a lot of people thought he was going to beat him. He didn't beat him. True, Chad Dawson is a bit fighter, but I still think he gets a little yellow when he gets in the ring sometimes. I don't think Chad Dawson's convinced me yet that he's that fierce fighter that everybody, would want him to be. Because like Hopkins said, if he had his mentality, he'd be a great fighter, but unfortunately he doesn't.
It's true. And, another thing interesting here, this is actually going to segue into something we'll talk about later, but Chad Dawson, a couple weeks into what should have been his training camp, gets rid of Emanuel Steward, who is arguably one of the best trainers, in all of boxing, has been for years. And he has a way of getting fighters over a hump after they've kind of fallen off the horse a little bit. You saw that with Evander Holyfield, back when he was fighting Riddick Bowe the second time around. He has a way of bringing, fighters back from the brink of disaster. He goes back with an old trainer to bring back the Chad Dawson of old. I don't know if the Chad Dawson of old is the one who can beat old Bernard Hopkins, but that's why it's an exciting fight. I mean, I think this is a toss-up fight for sure, even though, like I said, I'm going with Dawson. But Bernard Hopkins is tough. He's, oddly enough, somebody whose power now needs to be respected, as it seems he's, kind of now sitting down on his punches as he's gotten a little bit older. He hasn't knocked anybody out in over 10 years, but ask Jean Pascal how hard Bernard Hopkins hits and see, if Chad Dawson wants to face up to that too. Dawson's chin has never been questioned, thankfully for him, but it's an interesting fight for that exact reason. You have a very skilled fighter, two skilled fighters, but one of them who's angry, who's got a mean streak, and that's why it's a toss-up. Anybody who's buying the pay-per-view, which I don't think it should be a pay-per-view fight, which is another story, but anybody paying their $55 worth might actually get their money's worth here.
Unless Dawson's trainer has a DeLorean, he's not going to be the Chad Dawson of old. I mean,
I get it to take him back to time.
Exactly, but like you mentioned, Dawson drops Emanuel Steward, and this week your favorite fighter, because he's a big Miguel Cotto. He's not a Mayweather nut hugger, as somebody suggested. He's a Miguel Cotto nut hugger.
Yeah,
and
no, I seriously am.
Miguel Cotto drops Emanuel Steward. Why? I mean, if something has been proven in boxing is that these amateur trainers don't do well in the pros, and Pedro Luis whatever, who train fighters in Cuba, and yeah, the Cuban national team's awesome. Why? Because they have 8,000 amateur fights while the Americans have 20. That's all they do. They can't turn pro because it's a communist country and they're not even allowed to leave unless you go to Germany. So why change trainers now? I mean, he was doing well with Stewart. He hasn't lost a fight with him.
There's two things here. For one, I'm going to explain the logic and then tell you why the logic is bad. The thinking is that he fights Antonio Margarito the first time and tries to slug it out with him and wears down because Margarito is a durable, bigger fighter who overwhelmed Cotto as the fight went on. The thinking is that he wants to fight an amateur style, which is faster. You want to calculate points. You want to move. You get away from your opponent's return punches, and so that's good logic, in theory. The problem with that is, again, as you said, you're dealing with an amateur fighter 8 weeks before arguably the biggest fight that you've had in a couple of years, and you've got a recipe with somebody who's trained you pretty well for your past two fights. I think Cotto's looked especially sharp, against Foreman and Mayorga. Again, you want to argue what kind of competition that is, but he's won the fights, and I think he's done it with a higher defense than he's had in the past few years, and as a little bit more boxing than slugging it out as you've seen in the past. So I don't think it's a good move. I do argue though that Cotto, because he's already fought Margarito, even when he had Joe Sanchez as his trainer before before Steward, he was kind of a fighter already training himself. I think he knows more or less the game plan going into this fight, but you do have to count it as a disadvantage for him to get rid of Emanuel Steward right before this fight, 8 weeks out. And
I agree with you because I think Cotto will win the fight regardless. You could be training him, I could be training him. I think he's going to beat him. I don't think Margarito's taken two tough beatings in a row against Mosley and Pacquiao. And Cotto, yeah, he took some beatings before, but not in the last couple of years. So whether he's being trained by UI or Pedro Luis, whatever his name is, or Teofilo Stevenson or Felix Savon or any of these other Cuban fighters or trainers, he's still going to beat Margarito, in my opinion.
As the Cotto nut hugger that you just called me, I want to agree, that's the case too, but I'm not Miguel Cotto, and I'm not the one who's been sacked around by Margarito before. The loaded gloves thing. Regardless,
the gloves won't be loaded.
Regardless if that's true or not, but the first time that Cotto tastes Margarito's power, you have to wonder: is he going to climb back into that shell that says, "I know what happened the last time this happened"? I don't know. I think Cotto had a beautiful strategy. It's one of the things lost in this first fight with Margarito is that he fought as well as he's fought at any point in his career in the first 6 rounds of that fight.
He was winning easy.
He was boxing, counterpunching, slipping punches beautifully, but the problem was that, again, Margarito overwhelmed him with... my voice just cracked.
Are you going to puberty?
No, I'm going to acknowledge that publicly rather than pretend it didn't happen. My voice did just crack. It's just hard to talk about. No, but I think one of the things Cotto needs to do is throw in those combinations and step away. That's why Margarito got his tail whooped by Manny Pacquiao, is because he never had a chance to return fire. The problem with Cotto is he's not as fleet-footed as someone like Manny Pacquiao, then again, who is. But
and he didn't have loaded gloves.
Right, yeah, exactly, which the New York State Athletic Commission has said that they're going to put all hand-wrapping materials inside a locked suitcase the night before the fight that will be guarded by the commissioner, which I think is a story in and of itself. The people think that there's this, locked up like Fort Knox, some hand wraps and stuff. Is somebody at the door?
Yeah, your towels.
Oh, yeah, I did order some towels. I'm gonna bathe after this. I smell like
Everybody wanted to know that. But you know what? We got a group of people here that have questions. This is our first live audience here on Boxing During Dinner. So do you have a question? This is one of my best men, by the way, Joel Gutierrez.
Yes, sir. Best man, number 2 over here, Miami, Joel. Inside joke. Anyways, how does it feel to be a celebrity on YouTube?
Well, I don't think I'm a celebrity yet. There's a lot of people like the honey badger that's a bigger celebrity. There's that guy that got hit by a truck while dancing the Dougie. There's also the double rainbow guy. He
Charlie.
and Charlie's a huge celebrity. So I don't think we're celebrities yet, David.
No, but I did feel pretty important when I walked into this room today. I had people recognize me who had never met me before. So.
Oh, and as we say that, Kieran Mulvaney, you're a god, dude.
Oh my gosh.
We love you. The shout out that you gave us on ESPN.com's podcast was amazing.
Yeah, that was like a minute and a half of him endorsing Boxing During Dinner. Now, I don't know if it's because he loves Hope Solo or because he's hungry and he wants more dinner, but regardless of the reason, I was pretty happy. And Kieran, I would like to take credit for being the one to notify you that Hope Solo is on the cover of the ESPN Bodies issue magazine.
I think he might get free copies of that. So.
Well, if you ask him, he's still sitting by his mailbox.
All right, more questions. If there's anybody that's here that's a huge boxing fan, it's this guy over here with the Big Papa Pump shirt. He's actually my nephew, Jamie. He's a little older than I am, but...
Look at this picture. You've got a nephew there. This is the uncle.
I'm the uncle.
How are you guys?
So, nephew, any questions for the Boxing During Dinner experts over here?
Well, I'm just, I was going to ask you about the heavyweight division, what you guys thought about the Klitschko brothers fighting. Who's second? Who can fight them and give them a match? I mean, who's next in line?
I think unless Jack Dempsey's ghost comes back from the dead, nobody's going to beat the Klitschko.
Can I ask a question now? Maybe if I'm 227 now, maybe I had a chance to fight him. Maybe I'll make a big payday and I'll get my butt kicked.
Or, do you want to call out the Klitschkos?
Yeah, the Klitschko brothers, the Cuban assassin, baby. Let's get it on. Bob Aaron, let's make it happen, baby. I don't make it rain like Money Mayweather, but we'll do it.
Will you go to Germany for the fight?
I'll go to Canada, wherever they want me to go. Germany, wherever, their hometown, their backyard, I'll do it. Let's get it on.
Let's see if we have some more questions over here. Any more questions? This is my brother, the other best man over here. Yeah. Any words?
No.
Do you like Boxing During Dinner?
Boxing During Dinner is awesome. I click on it like 57 times each.
That's not true. That's not true.
Nobody does that. Our views are all accountable.
And here's my friend James. Do you have any boxing questions or any thoughts on my wedding nuptials today?
It's a good decision that you're making. I think we all agree with that.
Unanimous
A unanimous decision.
Even with the type of models that we've gotten on Boxing During Dinner here before?
That you're saying that, not me.
That's not me.
And we have Alex over here. Alex, any questions?
Well, it's my understanding that today's the 26th episode of Boxing During Dinner. Do you guys where do you see the show going? Where do you hope for it to go?
I hope for it to get picked up by some big TV station and go national. Mark Cuban, if you're listening, HDNet needs some programming. So
I have a thought too. For those of you who don't know that the NBA season is on the brink of being canceled, one of the things that they're talking about replacing a lot of that content with is boxing, which I think is fantastic. So there's this opportunity, I think, for Boxing During Dinner. I can't imagine there's any other competing content to be filling up that space. Marv Albert doesn't have anything on Boxing During Dinner, and he doesn't have food that's nearly as good.
he does have women's lingerie.
Yes! From way downtown!
One more question over here from my cousin Julio. How's it going, man? What's your this will be the final question on Boxing During Dinner today.
Let's get a good question. I wanted to ask you, the biggest talk there is in boxing right now is Mayweather and Pacquiao. What's your thoughts? What do you think?
That's actually a good question, David, because I think Mayweather is gonna fight Amir Khan. Even though Amir Khan's been talking this week and it might have been a lie that they agreed to the fight, but I still think that fight will happen. And after Tim Bradley beats Casimir, it's going to be Pacquiao and Bradley. So unfortunately, Julio, we're not going to see that fight for at least another year.
Sometimes I like to throw a wrinkle in the plans. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. If you want, May 5th, 2012, put it on your calendar. Manny Pacquiao versus Timothy Bradley. And then somewhere probably in the second half of 2012, I think you're going to see Floyd Mayweather travel to England and fight Amir Khan.
And I do have a Manny Pacquiao t-shirt on. even though I bashed a guy on the show, basically, but,
Is Pac-Man your dog?
Oh, and there's one more question over here, really quick.
I want to ask you guys, if Manny Pacquiao and Mayweather fought, what do you guys think? Who would win?
We've gotten a lot of crap for this, Jamie, but Mayweather wins by decision. I think it'll be a pretty easy fight for him.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like if anybody's ever seen bullfighting, Manny Pacquiao reminds me of the bull, and Floyd Mayweather reminds me of the guy up on the horse with that sharp spear at the end, where Pacquiao will continue to attack, not knowing that every single time he does that, that spear is digging further into his back.
Yeah, but before we go, Alex, could you give me this a second?
Oh, this is your shining moment.
This is Alex.
Hi.
That's our cameraman. Look at him.
Finally, I'm on. I'm finally on. How about that?
The best beard
Yes.
in the room.
The best beard. This side doesn't grow though. If you see right there, one day though, it will be full.
He's got recession facial hair.
I get to deal with these guys every single week.
Yeah.
I want to wish Armando and Anna. See, this is part of the video too that we're doing. We're actually working double time right now.
You're videotaping the videographer.
Yes.
I can't even talk. I've drank so much.
So I think we can close Boxing During Dinner episode 26. Mandy, if you would please give me the camera, they would like to do something for you right now.
All right, this has been Boxing During Dinner, and
Episode 26. We'll see you next week with an interview.
I think I'm just gonna get my butt kicked.
All right, go guys.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
Just got knocked out by marriage.